Welcome to this 15th edition of the Crypto Simps, now sponsorless, but I am joined here, as always, with my good friend, Mr. Jason Pizzino. As always, his social media links will be in the link in the description below, and I would strongly suggest you check them out. No exchange of shield today, however, so that is good. And I think we'll kind of start it off with the topic of the day. Probably what everyone's wondering is, well, what do you think of price action right now? Bitcoin just had probably the biggest day over day gain to the upside. That is not necessarily to the downside that we've seen probably in about a year now. So what are you thinking? Current price action is about 43,500. And a rather stark contrast from last week, let's say.
I got a lot to say on the price
Yeah.
action. Well, firstly, let's just say it was exactly as expected. Both you and I picked it beautifully.
As always, perfect.
As always, perfect, you know? The support and resistance, it flipped. It was beautiful. No, to be honest, that was the video that you came on my channel last week. We did a live stream. Things were looking down. This is a trader. This is an investor. We were just talking about this before we came on. And you have to be nimble with what information comes at you. Information came the next day, the thing flipped, so you have to go with it. I think we're definitely bullish from this point. I think we've got to test 46, and then let's see if we can get to 50. Is that what you're seeing as well? This looks like the time.
I'm looking at this as actually a weekly higher low right now, and I see both volatility and momentum are expanding and suggesting upside from there. So to me, that's a pretty obvious signal. Obviously, I'd want to see, for full-on confirmation above about $44,500 on a daily, but my most early sort of long-term log signals have been ticked off now, which is a good sign. And one of my most important indicators for a very long-term macro analysis has gotten an official flip to the upside as well for the first time, basically since the summer, I believe it was. So yeah, man. And, just kind of riffing on that topic a little bit, as always, when it comes down to trading or just analysis in general, it's like you're going to go with what's in front of you at the time until something new happens. And at that point, and what I think a lot of people kind of maybe misunderstand about it is that technical analysis is not about telling the future. You can't tell the future. That it can't be done. And I know that some people like to, think of it as like an Elliott wave where it's like, exactly where it's going to go. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to switch when things actually switch up. And more importantly, that is why I and I know you as well have these very specific, what I refer to as invalidation points, where it's like, hey, if this happens, I know that my main idea is going to be wrong. And very likely the probabilities of this next set of things is going to happen as well. And for me, that got ticked off last week, pretty much the next day as well.
Hey, it was within that 12 hours because as we filmed, it was going down and there was no higher close. It was going down. There was heavy volume. Everything for your analysis, my analysis was saying down at that point, short term. Next morning, within 12 hours, you had that higher close. Professionals, they work the close. Close was higher. You have to flip. It is what it is. And if you can't be nimble with it, then people are they're gonna get burnt. But they're watching us. And I didn't mention earlier on because I said it to you before we went live. But hello to the man bun. Has your audience seen that yet?
Tied my hair up here. Yeah, it's being held down right now. I can't bring myself to cut it, but I also am starting to get a little bit over it, I'd say. But yeah, man, just on that topic as well, what always gets kind of like missed out in those scenarios, at least from my side, is that I was bearish on Bitcoin below about 41,500, so it's like when Bitcoin comes down to 35 and spends a little bit of time below there, that's a pretty damn good trade for me. And then when it reverses right on that same day, it's like, okay, time to close and something new is going on. It's like, that's what I think a lot of people who might not be too familiar with trading just don't like intuitively understand, because it's not about getting every little last move perfectly. And it's about a series of moves, over time, of course.
Here's a good one. I think people try to, most people don't trade, so they're not that interested, but they want to hear about the news every day. For us, the news is the chart. The chart tells it before the news. If most people are trading, maybe this is you, maybe it's me, maybe it's people watching, they're trying to fill their longer term bags. If they're interested in Bitcoin, that's their macro position. But they're trying to do it from a daily point of view. They're trying to get in as low as possible for their macro view. But if you're looking for macro turns, confirmations, like you said, confirmations or invalidations, then they happen on a more macro time frame. So we're seeing a weekly higher low. Then you would enter when the top of that higher high is broken. And that might be, I think it's at around a price of what was it, 40K. So you'd have to enter above that 41K. You won't be able to buy $35,000 Bitcoin in your macro position if you're following those rules for your macro positions.
And that's the whole thing, is like, you have to have your own plan, because if you're going off of someone else's plan, you might not even be looking at the same, you probably don't have the same preferences. You're not going to be able to portray the same way. So it's always like, I want to be explaining what I'm doing simply for the perspective of it, and then people can use that how they want. But it's like, you can't really copy what I'm doing, because one, I'm not actually like giving out exactly what I actually am doing. And two, it's just, things can be played multiple different ways. I mean,
you could give out everything that you do and someone would still get it like not exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say wrong, but it just wouldn't be the same way that you've been able to do it.
Right.
I listen back to these and I think it's almost like us just having a whinge every week about amateur traders
You put out like a really profound thing that completely changed my own perspective on like any YouTube comment or Twitter comment that I ever get. And you put out a poll. This was like months and months ago. And you said, what is the amount that you have invested in this space that you trade with or invest with, whatever? And you had multiple different tiers. And it went up all the way to, hundreds of thousands of dollars plus.
I think I did 100K plus, and I broke it down in between.
100K plus, which
was like the largest.
Yeah, right. And the most selected one was, I think, below about 5,000. Like 75% of people, and this was like a big, sample size. Had below that
it had to be 15 to 30,000. That's usually what my polls get on YouTube. So 15 to 30,000 people clicked on that button.
Yeah, so that's pretty damn big. And then he went on to draw the conclusion, which I thought was extremely profound, that whenever you get into an argument with someone on the internet, it's likely that they have this amount invested in. And this is not to say that if you have a lower amount invested, you're a bad person or like you are an idiot.
We all had to start somewhere.
Yeah, we all had to start somewhere, obviously. But it does seem very interesting to me that those typically are the more opinionated people who are probably playing, I would imagine, with like, just fun money. I would imagine, they're probably, they probably have like a job that they put a little bit of money into on the side every week or whenever they get paid or what might have you.
I don't think they're that sensible if they're having a go on YouTube.
Well, you always got to wonder, like,
a little more polite.
Doing that. True.
If they're dollar cost averaging in, or they're interested in learning DCA, more, they might have a bit more money.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and I imagine they're probably younger and they're just venting, right? It's like people on the internet, they know that it's not going to really come back to them. What? Oh, you do? Yeah. You're always wrong every time.
You're always what? I tend to agree with the majority of them too, because I just see the majority of channels like you do. Essentially, they're sort of just talking for the sake of talking, like we are doing right now, but to the sake of talking, to have the affiliate links. They're digital marketers, as I like to call them.
Well, that's the whole goal, is to get as many people as possible onto those affiliate links. And it does drive money. And dude, I mean, it's a pretty dirty game, like what the affiliate links and a lot of influencers do. Like, I probably shouldn't talk about this live on here, because I don't know if this is going to come back to me and like someone's going to put out like a hit on my face. But, there is a pretty dirty game that is played between exchanges and influencers. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. And your imagination can go wherever you would prefer it to go. But
mine's running wild now. I need to hear more about this.
But it is very interesting to me that the people who are talking about very specific trade setups, they typically fall into that category. So, draw your own conclusions, I suppose. But on that topic of DCA, as you kind of brought up earlier, I always find that that's a rather interesting one, simply because, from a trader's perspective, DCAing is bullshit. You can't, or at least in the context of what DCA is meant to be, is people don't even do it right to begin with. That's the problem. Here, if you want like a very simple rule, DCA, you can make it work. It actually is a very, very good strategy in a particular situation. What is that situation? Well, Mr. Warren Buffett will tell you himself, who I believe kind of coined the term. And that is essentially, you want to be DCAing only into assets that are in uptrends. That's when you DCA. And of course, when you are coming at it from his perspective, taking his knowledge, you have to understand that Warren Buffett is what's known as an active investor, meaning that he has such large stakes on a lot of these stocks and equities that he's trading, that he gets to make some of the decisions, on their board. So he has an active position in that way. And so he's basically an insider in a lot of ways. And you just have to realize that you and I probably are not that person. I know that I'm not, and perhaps you are. Maybe you are if you are listening to this. But 99.9999% of people are not. So unfortunately, you always have to have different sort of strategies for different sort of perspectives, obviously.
There's a lot to be said about dollar cost averaging, and I know a lot of YouTubers will make it out like it's a simple thing and here's a simple strategy.
Yeah.
Just before, maybe just turn your volume up. Sorry to the viewers.
Yeah.
I think it was just to balance out. That usually happens, and
I think this should be good.
And your camera is always unfocused. But let's get back to the dollar cost averaging. I had this comment, people saying I hate dollar cost averaging. And I think about it because they're saying it's right. You should be buying at lower prices. I'm like, yeah, that's what everyone says. But everyone is treating cryptocurrency as if they are 50-year-old stocks and businesses, they have proven themselves and they need to be dollar cost averaged into.
And they also have like a working product, that whole thing.
They have a whole
earnings reports.
Dollar cost average into Coca-Cola, into I don't know, Walmart, Starbucks, like something that's been around for decades, but they like dollar cost averaging into the next shit coin that it still just has a shitty website. That's about it. Cardano.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Come on. But that is part of the dollar cost averaging problem. It's just like, no, you got to dollar cost averaging this. And look, all the big digital marketer YouTubers will say it because it's a simple thing. Dollar cost averaging. See, I told you to buy it when it was down. Okay. That's not my thing. Not my thing, but we're complaining. I feel like I'm complaining again about all of these little things, but it's so like, it's how you lose money.
It's fun to talk about. Yeah,
it is fun to talk about.
Well,
you just get wrecked doing that.
I think also people look at DCA as DCA on margin as well, which you certainly cannot do. I mean, you can't have. Oh, dude, you'd be surprised, man.
Dollar cost average on margin?
Yeah, using leverage to dollar cost average into like positions, or or doubling down on positions, man. Speaking from the perspective as a trader, doubling down on a losing position is, in my experience, never profitable. Doubling down on a winning position, yeah, sure. That's the one you want to reward your winners, but
it's more pyramiding. You're not like doubling down. You're pyramiding. Yeah, and you should be getting in a smaller position on the way up as well.
Right. I mean, to explain the way that I actually do things is I typically do my entries and exits in either 1/2, so 1/2 of my intended size at different levels, or 1/3, and that's where I kind of want to be. And sometimes I don't get sometimes I don't get hit on everything, and that's just the name of the game. It's not going to be perfect. The idea is to get, if I get like 70% of a move, that's pretty damn good. I'm pretty fucking happy with that.
That's decent, yeah. It's just take a chunk out of the middle. That's what I always say.
Right. I'm not trying to pick the bottom. I'm not trying to pick the top. I'm trying to get the easy one in the middle there. If I'm going to be trading that trend, that's what I'm looking for. Theoretically, only one person really gets to buy the low or sell the high, and then after that, it's like, are you just going to hold on because you didn't get the high or the low? I always hate that statement when someone says, I took this position and now I'm stuck. It's like, you're not stuck in anything. You can always make a decision. So
click the button itself.
Yeah, the red button's right there. It's quite simple.
But what if it goes up? But what if it goes up?
And you lose a few bucks, but you keep your account for another day at least. Like that's just it's just one of those things that people want to be perfect in a game where you cannot be perfect in. You can't be perfect in this game. It's so different than like going to school and taking a test, because that's how we're conditioned, right? We're conditioned to get every answer right on our test. If we don't get every answer right on our test, it's a fail, or not always.
We're conditioned to believe there is one right answer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Trading there isn't, like we saw last week.
Yes.
It's flips and flops and
exactly. Exactly. And trading is just the opposite of that. Like, you can't have certainties in it. You have to have probabilistic setups that you go with, and just understand that, even a good strategy from like my own perspective, if I'm running a good strategy, I look at that as like a 70% win rate, and it might not even get too many signals for an entry to begin with, maybe like a couple a week if I'm lucky. So
I had that recently as well, and I know it's always just those one-off comments that get you. We've talked about this heaps of times on the podcast, but it's like why aren't you putting up many trades? And I'm like, well, my view is longer term. If I'm a short term leverage trader, you got plenty of trades. You just trade on the volatility. If the market's
Yeah.
crazy, trading up and down. That's sweet.
Right.
But I'm like, for altcoins, for the amount of profit I want to make, I don't see that yet. I'm looking for
Yeah.
200, 300, 500% minimum returns for those positions that I look to enter. And I
Mhm.
can't see a lot of these doing
So
that
that's just
just
a
yet.
that's just a
Top 50,
preference
top
thing.
100.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
that's
And they're
also the
like, "Where are the
thing.
trades?" I'm like, if you're gonna go for
Well,
20%, but you have a
yeah.
potential 20, 30% stop loss. So a
Mhm.
1-to-1 is not. I don't like
Right.
those,
Well, it's not a winning proposition long term.
doesn't sound like it at all.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, fuck it. There was something that I was about to get onto right from there, and I lost it, man. What were you
Cut you
going
off.
on? What were you
We were
going on?
looking it was just about looking at what people
Oh,
keep hitting
showing
us with.
right.
It's
Trades.
all about
Yeah.
us. We're getting emotional here. This is our venting program.
Yeah, I need to have a bit of a vent. But you have to realize when it comes to the internet and you're conversating with someone, or any venue, it doesn't even have to be on the internet. Your your miscommunications with someone that lead to like frustrations, it's usually just that. It's that we don't understand each other. They don't understand your preference that
Mhm.
you are more long term. You maybe
Or
don't
you have
understand
2
where they're coming
accounts.
from, which is more short term. Yeah, us could also have that as well. And
Yeah.
so because they don't understand like exactly what you mean, that causes that animosity, at least between like reasonable people, I'd imagine. Like think about it this way, when you're driving on the road, or I don't drive anymore because I don't, my license expired and I didn't renew
Oh,
it. But you're driving, and then you're trying to get somewhere, like you're trying to get to the, I don't know, the hospital, whatever it might be, whatever's important to you. And then someone drives in front of you, or they're being slower than what you want, and you're mad at them. But why are you mad at them? Well, they don't understand that you're trying to get there, and you don't understand that maybe they have, they probably have their own issues as well. And so it's like you hate this person or you're angry at this person, but it's really just a miscommunication, and we don't understand, why we're doing something. So it causes that friction between two people, and that happens in all things.
good point, because that obviously that happens with YouTubers, or
Yeah.
people
Oh yeah.
watching us and writing and all that sort of stuff. And that was a good point that came up the other day. I was saying it to you earlier.
Mhm.
Um, you must have said something on a podcast recently. I'm like, we say stuff all the time, but you don't remember every word, and
Yeah.
sometimes it can be offensive, but we don't mean anything, harsh about it.
Right.
If you watch us long enough, like that's not part of our personalities is to do that.
Right.
And this person just said, "Oh, I've lost so much respect for him. I don't want to know him anymore." I'm like, I
Okay.
thought about that as a flip. It's like,
Right.
what about your friends? Do you like every single aspect of that friend? I have a few good friends, and I'm like,
Of course not.
of course not. Like I can't like every
We're
single.
complicated human beings, man.
Yeah,
If you're looking for an alignment with someone else completely, you might as well just clone yourself, because people are complex, man. They have different life
whoa, whoa.
experiences.
But if you clone yourself, you kind of you dislike a lot of things about yourself that we don't know.
Oh fuck, man. Yeah, I'm my worst enemy as well. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, man. That actually is a really profound point. Most people don't like themselves, or at least we all have something that we don't like about ourselves.
We
So
want,
it's
yeah,
like, how do you
exactly.
deal with it? It's like, fuck, man. Now I can just beat up on myself. Yeah, it's
So then
I
you
totally
start
understand
to,
that.
yeah. So then, as someone who is a public figure now, we're talking. We have a lot of
Mhm.
people that watch. Then you start to have to make your message more vanilla to suit more people, and that's super boring. Like that's not us. I know it's not
Yeah,
your personality. It's not my personality. But to grow bigger, the message either needs to be quite dull or not show too much personality, and it's very just informative.
right. Well,
So,
that's what you see on the biggest channels, right? Is they're a lot more generic, and they don't want to like take major sides either which one way, and they say things, most importantly, that they know people are going to agree with. And that's also,
mhm.
like politics as well, right? You have to say things that people already agree with, they feel somewhat strongly about, or it's safe, it's within, I forget what that damn terminology is, but it's
Ah,
within what is socially acceptable. And so
Yeah, for
naturally,
both sides, we'll still agree
right.
with what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever polarization you're going on here.
Right. And so my channel, I mean, somehow it's gotten above 150,000 subscribers, and I've been referring to candlesticks as dildos for the past 4 years, which is
But that's acceptable
beyond
in
me,
crypto.
man. It's like
That's
beyond me.
that's
Yeah.
acceptable in crypto.
Perhaps yes. Perhaps yes. So it's like, if someone truly feels that way about me, it's like, okay, I understand. Like, I understand. You're entitled to not like something that I said, or not like me by extension. Because of that, I'm also entitled to, go about my own life as well. And that's just, I think that's the most healthy way to take it, because you can't control someone else's opinion. It's like, what else are you going to do? Are you going to have like am I going to respond to a comment like that and be like, no, man, actually, you're wrong about this. And here's why I'm right. And then the best case scenario, which is not going to happen, but the best case scenario is that they come back and they're like, yeah, man, you're right. I like you again. And it's like, nothing's changed. Really, nothing's changed for
Or you
me
agree
nor
to
that person.
disagree, and then it just goes to the lowest common denominator, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how we're
That's
growing in society. You got to
right.
make both sides happy, and it's just like, well, what would
Yeah.
actually be best for us? Well, I think this, you think that. Well, let's get somewhere in the middle, and then that's how we try to grow at a
Right.
slow pace. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so, I think when you get onto YouTube, you just kind of have to accept that fact that naturally, with a big enough community, there's going to
Mm.
100% be some people like that. Hopefully less, a
It's
minority,
the minority,
because
always
with
the minority, and
majority,
we
then you got a
focus so
problem.
much on it, we give so much
Right.
attention to it. But seeing all the comments, I'm looking at you guys. I come back and I look at the
Mm.
comments on these videos. I love it. There's so much positivity from people
Yeah.
who have listened
Yeah.
to it. We get to the second half of the stream, and we start
Yeah.
going into all sorts of different topics. Speaking of positivity, what do you like to do to pull your mind out of just the nonsense, the jargon,
Dude,
the
it's
shit?
it's 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 seriously the most simple thing ever, and anyone can do this, man. Meditation, I think, is number one, and then that could come in various different forms. For myself, literally just meditating on a fucking couch, can get it done. But going for a walk, man, getting out there
Mm.
in the actual environment, going for a lift session, going for a sauna session, putting your body
Oh,
under some sort of physical
a
strain.
sauna in Finland?
Oh, dude, I love it, man. I've one in my apartment, and I do it every fucking day. It's incredible. It's life changing. And here's the thing: when you deal with something that is physically strenuous, you get away from all of these phantoms in your mind that they don't matter really that much, anyways, because you're dealing with something that is real in front of you. It's like we could make an allegory to the situation in Ukraine and Russia. For the people of Ukraine, they're not worried about wearing a fucking mask right now because they're
Mm.
worried about missiles. And maybe that's what the person was mad about, because I remember I made a comment like that last week. Hey, fair enough, man. Keep on wearing your mask. More power to you. I'm not making fun of you, but I'm not going to do it right now until it's mandated. But here's the thing: it's like, now you have a real issue, and so that becomes at the forefront of your mind. Now, obviously, when it's a controlled issue like lifting a heavy weight or going to a sauna and trying to get through some really
You're talking
intense
about going to the
degrees.
gym and doing like a leg session
Right.
or some
Right.
bench press,
Yes.
or yeah, let's put some vision in our
Gotcha.
minds of
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Make
Eric
it more relatable.
pushing some
And
muscles and sweating and
oh, you noticed. Yeah. So once you get into that, it's hard to kind of worry about these things that they're really in your mind anyways, and someone else's opinion of you. Someone else's, and anyone can use this knowledge. Someone else's opinion of you can never actually change who you are. And to take that one step further, that person, no person outside of yourself will ever know you better than yourself. So why would you take something to heart from someone who, or take something, from someone who you've never met in your life, you've known for 1 second on a comment, and it's probably just like a misinterpretation anyways, who's making a judgment on you? And, does it change who you are? No. And you should know yourself better than that anyways. I mean, you've been
I
living
had a
with
few
yourself
comments like that.
for 30 years or whatever it might
E
be. Right.
Exactly, and I've had that often as well. They misunderstand you at the time, but then for some
Mhm.
reason they keep watching, and then it might be a month later or
That's
6 months
that's a
later.
fucking
I
funny
have
one.
those
Yeah.
comments. They're the
Yeah.
best when they write back and say,
Yeah.
"Man, I thought you were a dick when I first found you, but now I
Yeah.
really understand what you mean, and it
Yeah.
saved me money, it saved me time, it saved me
Yeah.
this, whatever it is." And they're like, they're so thankful because they've seen
Yeah.
the difference. And I get that too in my life as well. And I'm like, man, I hated whatever that person did. And then you go, shit, I might give it more time because that's usually a good trigger to know that
Mhm.
like if something's pissing you off, it's either it's not good or it's a reflection on yourself. And so
Right.
then you just go,
Right.
all right, let me dig a little bit more into that after I've taken a breath and I go,
Yeah.
why don't I like that thing about that person or, what they've said or done?
Yeah.
That's a really good personal development piece. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just look. No one else besides yourself is going to know yourself better than yourself. Just it's a fucking fact, man. You've been living with yourself longer than anyone else. Even your parents wouldn't know you as well as you know yourself. I mean, you've been there the whole goddamn time. So, taking to heart something like that is just, it's not wise, obviously. And here's the thing is like, most people listening to this, obviously they probably don't have to deal with that on like YouTube or Twitter or whatever it might be. But I'm sure in your life you've had disagreements or
Maybe
something
at
and you
their
get into those
work
situations.
or
Yeah,
family
and
or
and
yeah.
you replay it in your mind over and over and over again. You're like, "Fuck, I should have said that. I should have said this." Like you'll be
Yeah.
thinking about it years later. There's some situations where, like from like 10 years ago, where I'm like, I replayed in my mind, I'm like, "Fuck, I wish I said that." But it's like,
It's such a good comeback.
yeah,
And then you almost put yourself in that situation again, so that
yeah,
could happen, so that you could say that comeback, like maybe
right.
subconsciously,
Yeah.
subconsciously, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
get him this time. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's
Let me
just I don't know,
line
man.
them
It
up.
comes from an
Yeah,
ability to let go, but we all do it, man. I know I do it at least. So it's an embarrassing thing, but I think the real lesson from it is that you replay it in your mind, you realize it's not a big deal, and it is what it is. It's in the past, and it's not relevant to who you are now. So just move on. Like
it's
it's just weighing you
tough.
down at this point. It's like
Hey,
that
I was
story
gonna
with
ask
yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, how are you going? Different topic, but I was very interested to hear more
Yeah.
about property and real estate. I know I've just switched it completely, but
Yeah.
real estate, you were talking about
It's
Portugal, you're talking about some in the
yeah.
Mediterranean,
It's become a
markets
lot more
are
relevant for me because, well, in the last week, obviously with this situation in Ukraine and Russia, look, I'm not taking any sides in that. I'm not a fucking expert in it. I don't know what's actually going on. I've looked at both sides of
how
the
good was
media.
that meme? I think you
The
reposted it, then
best.
I reposted
Yeah.
it, and then of course someone has
It's
to write like, "Oh, this was
no,
the funny the first 8 times I saw it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, dude. Just
yeah,
just enjoy the laughter." Anyway, move on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Sorry,
one of those things.
the meme
Look,
was I was a
I was a
expert in mask
vaccine
wearing,
expert.
in
Yeah.
vaccine, and now I'm an expert in geopolitical
That's exactly right.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, and
geopolitics.
yeah, and
Oh, sweet.
look, I've actually watched both the Western media and the like Russia Eastern media on the situation. It's so funny to me that they're both like carbon copies of each other, just switching the colors essentially. I can give you an example. On the Western side, I'm like holding this little, it's fucking what even is this called like a pluck or whatever the hell it is?
Tweezers? Are
Yeah,
you plucking
tweezer.
your chest hairs again?
Yeah,
Or your nose hairs?
yeah. Can you see that it's all red around
Where are you getting those nose hairs? I
I
see them popping up.
gotta.
No,
Fuck.
I
Where
bet you
was I
it's for
going?
your
Yeah.
monobrow.
So,
It's definitely your monobrow.
so on the Western side, I saw a story, for example, where they were talking about how like a Russian strike or a Russian raid basically killed, some of their friends and some children, which is awful. Like nothing is good about this. Obviously, nothing is good about this. And then you go to the Russian version of the media, and I remember it was this video of this old Russian woman who was trying to explain and also kind of lamenting the situation in, I think it's like Donbass and Luhansk. Look, I don't even know the fucking names of them, which were portions of Ukraine, but they're kind of more like Russia anyways, because mostly Russians live in there, and they've been in kind of like an ongoing conflict with the majority of Ukraine, and they've been getting killed. And so she was complaining about that. It's like this is the same thing, this is the same thing going on both sides, and it doesn't make it any better, obviously. But for myself, again, I'm not making any value judgments on this, but what I do have a strong value judgment on is one, threatening nuclear warfare. That's kind of a big deal. And then two, last week, and a bigger one for myself to segue into this conversation about real estate as I get there, is
Oh, yeah, that's
that
tight,
Putin,
yeah.
yeah, Putin, or his administration came out and said, if Finland joins NATO or talks to NATO or whatever it might be, we will look at that as an act of war and we will respond militarily and politically. And as soon as I heard that, it's like, okay, well, it could be that Russia does maybe try to invade Finland. I mean, they tried it in the past, and if that were to happen, I have property here. So what would I do with that? Well, I need to go really actually now and go search out property elsewhere in case I actually do need to move. At the same time, I really have to ask myself as well. It's like, if I truly do love Finland and love living here, shouldn't I just fight for their military if I could? I don't know, maybe. I don't know if it even is worthwhile to sign up having no actual experience except for like Call of Duty. But I need to make sure that Elsa's safe as well. So buying some property in Portugal is what it's very likely going to be. I'm looking at a very specific area in the Algarve that's nice and close to the water, so we can go swim in there with our
Most
wetsuits as
westerly
we
point that Europe can manage.
yeah,
Besides
exactly.
the islands in the
Get through our way
Atlantic.
there. Although, I've heard really good things about South America if you kind of want to escape the troubles of the world. But then again, it's like, do I trust the systems over there? I don't know. I don't know much
Where in
about it.
South America? I've only ever seen, say, like Uruguay. Obviously, it's Uruguay. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Argentine peso, you're screwed. Brazil. No, no. Look, this is just what I see, hear, and read.
Mhm.
I don't have any experience going there, so this is even less valuable than my technical analysis opinion. But we're looking at Brazil. That was a joke. Thanks. My TA spot
Please
on.
clap.
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
political decisions have been verified.
Venezuela.
100%.
No. Ecuador, maybe. Colombia, maybe. Colombia,
Well,
Chile.
well, look, the problem is that
Paraguay has good tax
if a
laws.
true world
anyway,
war
go on.
actually broke out, it's going to affect everywhere anyways. Like, the whole financial system is going to go tits up probably. I mean, even just excluding Russia from SWIFT is going to have its own, issues within the Western world. I mean, this was a decision that's going to hurt both. It's not going to hurt both. It's going to hurt everyone. Everyone, not just Russia and their allies, but everyone's going to be affected by that. So you have to be thinking in terms of, if there was a world war, which I'm not saying that there isn't. Hopefully there isn't, although could be kind of crazy. Well, there's not going to be a place to hide, so you might as well fight, I guess. Because
speaking of just seeing the extreme fear, I think it was on the video last week when we did a live together, and we were sort of saying, oh, maybe I was looking in terms of NASDAQ, but the low was coming in. And I'm like, we've seen so much extreme fear, and the market has just reversed from that point. So it's not to say that I don't expect a lower low sometime Q3 or Q4. It's months away. It's months away.
Yeah.
But for what we've seen now and what the new, like how extreme the news has been, essentially saying, or Russia invading Ukraine, that's been announced, and that happened last Thursday, I think it was.
Yeah.
It can't really get any crazier than that at this point. Like, what could get crazier?
Oh, it could definitely get crazier, man. I mean, right now,
in terms of the news and the sentiment, it's like, oh, okay, the market's always pricing this in. So all the thoughts that we're having about, what if Finland joins NATO, then that's an act of war. What if Ukraine was to get onto NATO, then obviously that's a war. That's why Russia's trying to stop it all. Like, what ifs. I think a lot of that's been factored in for now. And so a new narrative will have to build before we can see another extreme low.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I do think you're probably online with that. The only thing that would maybe turn that tits up would be like actual, nuclear war, I guess, at that point. Russia.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a little while before they actually hit any sort of buttons with nuclear
hopefully.
war.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, of course. But
I mean, last I heard, Putin put his nuclear people on on high alert, basically, which is upping the ante. So look, I'm not an expert in this realm. I don't know how many checks and balances need to go on before a button's actually pressed. But look, just as a fucking innocent bystander watching on, it seems like things kind of got escalated from that point to a serious manner. So
he did lose his honorary black belt from the Taekwondo Association today.
He will definitely be reconsidering his actions after that. I'm sure of it. I'm waiting for all the celebrities to send him videos being like, "We compel you to stop, Mr. Putin. We of the Hollywood cabal." Just like, it's like great.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
They always get involved in that stuff.
It is a weird thing, man, but it's popular right now. And the weird thing to me is that this is one of those situations where it seems like everyone in the West seems to be very allied with each other in the same sort of thought. It really only seems like the truly fringe, typically people on the right who are a little bit more skeptical of this. But I think that's because this
I've
is
seen
getting,
that too.
yeah,
Like a lot of my
it,
fringe
yeah,
right friends are
I,
sort of
I've,
saying, Russia's
yeah,
got their point of view too. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I'm happy to hear
Well,
both.
yeah, I mean, I do understand a little bit of the Russians' point of view. It's like obviously you don't want people encroaching on your territory, obviously. But what I'm talking about is these people who they will immediately take the other side of whatever the left
Oh
side
yeah, yeah.
is, just because it's like we don't like anything that they do, and anything that they do is always wrong, which is just it's a terrible way to operate uh, in any vein. I mean, how can because no one's ever going to be
It's
100% wrong, obviously.
no, it's the same thing with trading and investing again. It has
Right.
to go this way. It's like, no, it doesn't. You got
Yeah.
to be in the
No.
center, and then it could go this way, it could go that way. But then you're a
Yeah.
flip flopper. It's like that's how
That's I want
life
to be a flip
works.
flopper.
That's how
Like,
it works.
that's a compliment in my book, man. It's like, yeah, I flip and flop, absolutely, man. Um, but but yeah, fuck, what, man? What was I just talking about for a second
Have you
ago?
not had your coffee today? What's going on?
No, man, it's been a weird last 24 hours. I actually didn't sleep too well last night, so
What
I think
happened?
things are not working too well in the head. Just thinking about the situation, man. Like honestly, it's been weighing on my mind quite a fair bit. And to be
Really?
fair, I've
Okay.
been doing my own version of doom scrolling, which is not helping.
Oh, and I
But
bet
once
you do it at nighttime too, just before bed.
yeah, absolutely. So it's always like it's all my dreams and everything. Just because once Finland's name got kind of brought up, and it's like, oh, this is kind of close now.
So has that made
So
you reconsider and like, I know you said that, but like act quicker? Or are you still
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how are you acting? If you want to talk about it, are you
Well,
going to
I
Portugal next week and looking at
I
property?
can't.
What's the go?
That's actually the problem. I can't actually go, so I need to do remote viewings. My residence
Wow.
permit it has to be decided upon again. So every year I have to get it renewed. Right now it's in the renewal period. So while it's in the renewal period, I can't actually travel. So that takes like another, I don't know, maybe month or two at most. Then we can go down there. But either which way, man, I'm happy to just buy a fucking property down there and just throw caution to the wind and be like, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's an investment property and all good.
You don't need to
So.
buy to leave, really, but it does help.
No. Yeah, it would certainly help. I guess I could always go back to the US as well, but I don't want to do that. I have no intention to go back to the United States unless if like absolutely have to. I just don't identify with that. And also I would think that that would be probably one of the lesser safe places anyways to go to. I mean, they're quite close to all the action
Switzerland,
and
you just got to
that's
go to Switzerland. They're always in the middle.
even Switzerland has been getting involved. They're sending weapons and whatnot to Ukraine.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. Even Germany, dude, Germany started their military production back up. Like this, things have really changed in the last like 3-4 days. I mean, this is kind of big stuff from the past almost 100 years, man.
I can
Um,
see the comments now. Jason doesn't know anything. I'm like,
well,
I'm
I'm sure we're
making
both
money in
gonna
the
get that.
market. Yeah, I know. Of course, we'll get that. You
I mean,
can't ever be up to date with
right,
100% of
right.
everything. I'm more interested
And
in what
you kind of just
stakes
said
I'm buying.
right, and look, I
Oh,
still
like
stand by
I
what I
know this
said.
sounds
If
this sounds
if I have
terrible.
a
People are
steak
like,
a
how
day,
could
it's
you?
good. It's a good day.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I
Well,
was
that's what I think
so.
about every day now. It's like, hey man, this could be the last day, so I'm getting the fucking best steak I can right here because
Oh,
I'm gonna be eating this. Um, it's look, that situation is probably gonna end up well simply because we all know it's at stake. I mean, no one a good
steak.
a major war is not good for anyone. But yeah, the best thing that or at least what I try to focus on and to bring this into maybe the self-help section of this here video would be doing what I can actually do that's in my power to change that helps me and hopefully those around me as well. And that
Exactly.
comes down to continuing trading, making money that way, continuing YouTube, helping around the community, and then also, doing like just doing the daily grind as I see it and while being aware of the situation and how it could maybe evolve, not putting too much onto it until it becomes like a legitimate concern because these things do happen over time. You can't just fucking send in troops without like first lining them up on the border. That takes a couple months at least. So I figure
Totally.
I figure the best thing to do is just simply do what you can actually do, which is mostly the same things. But yeah, go ahead. I just
You know,
cut you off there.
no, that's okay. There's nothing that you can really do, and people get really up in arms about it all. It's like look, it's out of your control. And this,
Yeah.
it reminds me of when the whole COVID thing happened,
Hmm.
and then, the whole everyone starts to get really into their conspiracies, and then they start to
Right.
come
Right.
true, and it's like, see, I told you, and if you don't escape, things are going to go bad. And then all that stuff escalates, exactly what you said. You do the
Yeah.
doomsday scrolling. And I have a couple of friends who are really into it,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
another friend, a close friend, really into it,
Oh, really?
always sending me videos. Stuff's going on,
Yeah.
check this
Oh,
out,
I
da,
have
da, da,
several
da.
friends like that as
You
well,
have friends
man.
like that? I'm like,
It's kind of
I
fun
can't
to
do
like
it.
play the game. It's kind of like
Yeah,
fun
but they get
to lean
into it
into
like,
it. Yeah.
it's this is gonna happen, and
Well,
I'm
that's the
like,
thing
it's
is
not helping my lifestyle, and it's
right.
affecting me mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
It doesn't
But
help
also,
me.
I'm sure you probably have noticed this with those friends, like they're usually not doing too well themselves. They're so focused on this event that is completely without their control anyways, that they forget all the things that they could be doing. Like, you got to keep on going to the fucking gym, man. You got to keep on being active. You want to be healthy. You want to be mentally
Sure, you
sharp.
have yeah, you have those few, and the friends I'm thinking of, they're actually doing pretty well, so not to,
Really? Oh,
not to burn your your metaphor there, but
I'm
I
wrong
totally get
again.
it. But I don't know if they can still have some balance between getting involved in that, because that's their soap
Right.
opera. It could happen in their life, but then also balancing with their, their businesses and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who just take that, and that's all they look at,
Right.
and it just consumes, and that becomes their life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of said it perfectly there with Rona, especially. So many people, even in my community, got so wrapped up in it that they were
Mm.
incapable of having a conversation that didn't have to go around some way with like the new world order and all this stuff.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
mean,
like,
I
hey,
was in
man,
that trap as well. That's all I
yeah,
could think of as well, because it started to cut you off from everything. And I think
it, right,
it was designed to do that. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like this for humanity. And like, oh, wear your
right,
mask, do this. Like, just no, you're losing everything. And we're
yeah.
starting to, it's finally starting to come back.
Yeah, yeah, it is finally starting to come back. It is funny how as soon as this whole issue happens, no one's talking about fucking masks no more. And fair
No,
enough.
it was
Again,
like Canada at first, and then
yeah.
now this war thing. It's like, wow, that's just gone. And then from your region of the world, Greta Thunberg,
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
is she
climate
at it
change, like
again?
that's gone. No, no,
Oh
but like
yeah,
that was like
okay,
that took the stage.
okay,
Veganism
yeah,
took the
yeah,
stage, and now all that stuff is
mm,
just like, you wouldn't even
yeah,
see it in a search trend. No
yeah.
one's talking about plant-based diets anymore.
Right, right. Yeah, so all that kind of goes by the wayside. And it's like I get it. There might be some concern for that. I know people are like Klaus, whatever. Do you know this guy Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum? They're all like worried about this guy.
WF,
Yeah, the
yeah.
WEF. And it's like, look, man, even if all of this shit is true, what is worrying about this actually going to do to help your situation? Like, how's this
You're
furthering the plot
wasting
for
time
yourself?
on that
Yeah,
compared to doing what I mean, I think you're
yeah,
doing, what I'm doing. It's like building an escape route for your family
yeah.
if it does happen. And if it doesn't
Yeah.
happen, it still has benefits to your
Yeah,
lifestyle in the current system.
exactly. And you want
I
that
just
carryover. It should
Yeah, it's a
naturally
win-win.
coincide with each other. Exactly. So, obviously building finances is always going to, give you some sort of freedom in that regard. And then making plans in my case, buying some real estate abroad that, if I need to go to, I can go to. But if I don't need to go to it, then hey, I got some real estate and that's I don't know, maybe I can go take a nice vacation or something, or sell it or whatever it might be, man. That's really what you want to be doing, or continuing doing my videos and whatnot as well. Like I just uploaded another video to my program as well. It's like I'm not going to
Oh,
stop what I'm doing
little
just because
plug.
of this situation. Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I actually just want to make sure that the people who have the fucking program know it's there
Know
because
about it, I know.
I do a very
Yeah.
poor job of letting them know usually. Um, but it's like those little things, man. Those are things that you can actually do right now that help your situation. And also it kind of alleviates the mental stress of thinking about these things that are completely without your control anyways. I mean, assuming you're not like in the government or something of the same sort. And at least it kind of gives you a nice comfort from that. And if things do turn tits up, well, it was the best way to operate anyways. And you probably had the least amount of suffering into it to begin with. So I look at it as logically, that's the best way to operate, even though I certainly do fall into the same trap myself. Like I said, I doom scroll at night, man. I fucking doom scroll on Twitter. I
Stop it.
search up, I
Stop it.
know. And it's like, I know that I'm doing it when I do it, but it just takes a hold. And so, it's not until about like 10 minutes later, I'm like, fuck, what am I doing right now? I'm reading these dumb fucking people on Twitter who have no better idea than myself. They really have no better idea than myself, giving their like amazing opinions, which, then other less informed people will comment on as well. It's like, why am I even putting weight on this to begin with? No one knows what the hell is going to happen except for the people who are quite literally in charge anyways. And
but Q.
Yeah, but Q, yeah. Like the fucking, have you seen the Q documentary? Have you seen I think it's called, oh my God, dude, you need to see this shit. It's on HBO, I believe. And
is it like 3 hours long? My friend was trying to send me something that was like 3 hours long. I'm like,
it's a series, maybe like 5 or 6 episodes, all about an hour each. You don't need to watch all of them to kind of get the idea, but basically, like, it's so fucking funny to me, man. The Q thing, it wraps people into it because, people want to feel like they're a part of some sort of secret knowledge, or that they have.
Well, we've lost that as well, right? Being a part of a religion. I'm not saying religious, Catholic, dude, Vatican, whatever is great.
Well, hey man, I'd rather us be fighting over fucking religion than goddamn masks. Like masks become the religion as of recently, right? Yeah. In politics as well. Let's go back to fighting over the books. At least there's only a few of them, anyways.
That's true.
But sorry, I couldn't help it. But in this documentary, basically, it's very, very clear that the whole Q phenomenon was basically hijacked by these really fucking interesting, very smart, but kind of definitely out of left field type of family, basically, who kind of operated it. It seems pretty damn obvious as to what was going on, but people get sucked up into it. And then what's really profound about the documentary?
Oh, so it's not like pro Q.
No. It's kind of just shedding light on the organization itself and who started it, basically. But it also kind of, puts a face on the people who are involved in it. And these people, man, like, bless these fucking people, because who the hell knows how they get dressed in the morning? I don't fucking know. But these are not like the most, these are not the people who you want being president, basically. And I'll put it that way. You don't want to be taking these people on a ship on Noah's Ark, okay? I'll just leave that right there. Anyways, you look at these people and you start to realize, like, a lot of the time when you are seeing these comments on like a Twitter thread or a Reddit or whatever you might be getting your social media from, it's these people who are probably, saying it. And so while it does sound rather interesting in a comment like that, you can't really see who's saying it. You can't see the life that they lead. You can't see the person behind it, basically, which does account for a lot. And so it was very interesting for me to watch, just because, I had been sent a lot of this Q stuff. There was, I can't tell that story because it's just too fucking weird. And I don't know if that guy's still listening. Fine. And he's fucking crazy.
Let's move on from Q.
The shit out of me.
I was thinking just earlier, if we were to have a guest on, who would you want it to be? We can start with anyone. Maybe it's another YouTuber. I want to know from guys watching as well.
Who would really want to have on?
Who would you want to have on the show?
I'll give you one that I don't think you would have guessed. I'd want to have on Crypto, just to talk with him. Because he's actually a very reasonable person when you talk with him. And I think if we got him on like a podcast style talk, you would see that he's just a dude. And
I can see that already. Yeah. Like in those videos where he does on other people's channels.
Right.
I want to ask him those questions, but I don't think it's I don't think it.
You don't want to be offensive.
No. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to ask him that in front of everyone else. I want to sort of like ask him privately, why do you like, how do you sleep at night? Essentially, with all the other questions wrapped up.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be happy answering that publicly as well. But I think it's kind of rude to do that. Just like bring him on and then just start slamming him.
Yeah. I mean, I actually consider him a friend. Like, I know him in real life. I wouldn't. That's not an endorsement of his like videos or anything. But as a person, I'm imagine most people would probably have a pretty damn good time hanging out with him, on an afternoon or whatever it might be. But he would actually be one of them. And also maybe, I mean, like, if we could get him, fucking Michael Saylor would be cool. Just to hear him ramble on about the ships and the 1930s Weimar Republic. And if you were in Venezuela and you had their money there, you'd be fucked. I mean, it always seems like the same story, but I like hearing him talk, man. He's so gifted. He's so fucking gifted with his speech that I want to hear him talk so that I can learn from him, not necessarily for what he has to say, although what he has to say is, pretty damn good for the most part, or at least, in my opinion. But just to like understand his speech and whatnot, kind of like a similar to Richard Hart, but with Bitcoin, but not
Richard
like
Hart
Richard.
we could get Richard Hart. He's very intelligent.
Definitely. He's so
Maybe
smart.
he's just, but I think he's just become so jaded, and I can totally get it.
Yeah.
Like, he talks down to everyone.
Oh yeah.
And he just demands respect. And I'm like,
right.
Okay.
He wasn't that way a few years ago. I actually had him on my channel like in 2018 or 2019, right before Hex was
But
released.
so many people are annoying. I think that's why he's like, I don't give a fuck. It's just, I don't need to be this whatever. Okay.
Right.
But I think it's still nice to be polite, but whatever.
Yeah, no, there would be no need to like be rude to him as a guest.
No, I'm not saying me rude to him, but when he's obviously talking about people, he's sort of
right.
just, as soon as the interview starts, he's already just like,
very combative. Yeah. But he's a master. He's just a master in psychology. You can tell when he speaks, man, because everything that he says, he's thought about and he's crafted to say very particularly so that it's the maximum amount of persuasion. I mean, we were actually having a discussion about this on a live stream. I think it was last week on my channel because, a few people from the Hex community watch my streams, and actually a few, some of them are pretty damn cool and pretty damn normal, and they're just like, hey, I'm just using this shit to make money off of because, well, it pumps like crazy. It's like, hey, fair enough, man.
Well,
More
of
power
course,
to you.
if it has good marketing and you have a community that really loves the shit out of it, that's all you want in a cryptocurrency. You just want to see it pump. You don't have to believe in it long term, but
the other
you need the other people to believe in it long term.
Right. But the other people who were kind of also on my channel who were not so thrilled with what I was saying about Hex, they immediately, what they start doing is they start parroting things that, their grand leader has said. And he kind of operates as a guru in that sense, or maybe not a guru is the right way to say it, but like a dictator of his sort of community in a sense. And I think that he knows, psychologically speaking, that he's a very dominant personality, and he knows how to influence people who, for lack of a better word, just, they're very easily influenced. Like there'd be like a fucking Q believer, basically. And he knows what to say to them in order to get them to basically get on his bandwagon and be like his soldiers, essentially. He knows what he's doing in that regard, I do believe.
Hitler was also good at that.
Yeah, I mean, all great dictators were, in fact.
Right,
and again,
not calling Richard Hart Hitler. Come on,
of course not, man. No. He's far away from Hitler. I mean,
totally.
he's the Hitler of sending you fake mail, which he's definitely been having his issues
he got he got sued for that.
I think he got sued by Washington. Yes, basically. But that was like cool. 20, 30 years ago. Look, 20, 30 years ago, you could definitely change in that time. I mean, that's
of course
not like a damning statement, obviously.
Spam mail. It's not like we don't get it now.
Yeah. And again, to be fair, like he has made a lot of people very, very rich. Problem is that the people who have joined, after that, basically falling into this narrative of the marketing that, if you hold this asset and you just don't do anything except for delay gratification, use these sort of buzzwords and make you feel like you're doing something right, well, then you can be successful. So it kind of, he's kind of right. He's kind of maybe misleading in some sense as well, but he's just an interesting person, I think. So I'd want to just ask him, like, I'd want to ask him, like, straight up. It's like, I know that you know what you're doing, so I'm just.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going to go with that. I just want to ask him, like, what's the end game with this, though? What is the end game? Because you know that like at some point the party will very likely end, and when the party ends, it only takes one crazy person to get very mad and do something crazy, So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, at some point people are gonna, at some point this thing's probably going to, well, well, do what Hex is going to do. Would do what Hex has been doing for the last like year or so, which is mostly going down.
Did you see my post on Twitter about that?
No, I
had
didn't.
it was like perfect. Just before it broke down, I'm like, yep, this is ready to go. You had,
oh no,
as expected, but yeah, of course,
exactly as
up, but I'm like, it was it was so similar to Bitcoin 2017.
Yeah,
the top came in. It was like rap videos everywhere. It was extreme hysteria of greed, and the price wasn't going anywhere. And I am gloating about that, but then I have to reflect and think, I can see that for every other project, but the stuff that I get married to, it's so hard to see it. So, I'm not having a go at those people because I still do those same, those same errors. Like Bitcoin was at those tops. It wasn't going anywhere. The party was huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where that knowledge comes from. It comes from living it yourself, which means that, we've all kind of got hurt in that same way. And hey, man, I'm not saying that that's exactly going to happen. It's just, if that were to happen, what is he thinking in that regard? But I guess also maybe the end game for him is to kind of create an army, because it's so interesting to me that he has this Hex project. He has a strong following from that. And then he goes off and he creates Pulse, which has been about to release for like, a half a year now, more than half a year.
Is Pulse not out? It's Pulse X now?
No, I don't believe it. No, he has another project. That's where I was going to get to. Then he started another one. No, he has two new ones. So he has Hex, Pulse, and Pulse X.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? Yeah. So Pulse
X is out, but then he had Pulse is supposed to be the Ethereum or something, and then Pulse X is supposed to be the decentralized exchange for it. I don't know. There was too many different things. So he's basically going through all the problems that every other cryptocurrency has had.
Yeah. And the
Sorry,
thing
I
is,
cut your whole story off.
Well, no, it's all good, man. I'm not even making too much sense anyways, I suspect.
Okay.
But the Pulse project, not the X, but the Pulse project, I actually sacrificed to that, mostly because when the Hex crowd comes at me with the pitchforks, I just want to be able to say, hey, look, I'm on your team as well. I'm helping out. But here's the thing, that one I was told by insiders in the project, which who knows if they are or not, that it was going to be done.
That tweezer?
Yeah, man, it's like my little thinking thing. It's not working too well right now, but it feels good. And it's not about what's right or wrong, it's about what feels good, man. Anyways, Pulse, I was being told by these insiders, again, put that in quotation marks, that it was going to be done within like, a couple weeks or at most a couple months. And that was back in September of last year. And now we're in obviously March. It's just interesting to me that people can be strung along this much, with just basically promises, I guess, of riches, essentially. I guess it's not necessarily promises of riches. Like, obviously Richard Hart is smart enough not to actually do that, but that is the implication. So he's very
We've seen it before on Hex.
Right.
400 million%.
Yeah, exactly. He's very wise to be able to kind of dog whistle these things without saying it outright, and potentially creating like a legal issue for himself, let alone like a paper trail of some sort of investigator to kind of come back to, whether it be like a Zach XBT guy or just like an actual authority to come back and be like, hey, you said you were going to do this and this didn't happen, and that's kind of strange, man. Highlighting it. But he's just an interesting fucking guy, man, is what it comes down to. So I don't know if we should actually have him on though, because I think he's too smart for me. And I don't know about you, but he's too smart for me. And I'm gonna be like, yeah, man, that sounds good. Yeah. You know what? That sounds great, actually.
It's into everything. Maybe we'll buy some Hex on the show. Richard Hart, Michael Saylor, Crypto.
What about you? Who would you want to bring on?
Raoul Pal.
Yeah, he's very interesting as well. He's another great
He's really
speaker.
Nice to talk to. Like, he seems like he'd be really nice to talk to.
Have you spoken with him before on your channel?
I haven't. No. I don't even know how to get in contact with him. I went to the website and sent a message in a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
But that's not directly with him. I don't think he has messages open on Twitter.
I just have to tag him.
Get in contact. Tag him all the time. Yeah, Michael, Raoul, do you want to come on the show? What would you want to talk about with them?
I guess his sort of thesis for the next year, and also just like about his general platform, man, because he has something very interesting going on. He has his Real Vision YouTube channel, right? And then they bring
Mm.
on people from all other sorts of what looks like competing venues to him to give their like analysis each and every day. For example, they have Darius Gale from 42 Macro, and both of them are providing what seems like to me macro analysis. I'll just be curious, like what that's all about. And then also, does he still have the same sort of convictions on Ethereum, for example, that he
Mm.
had, I think, in October? I don't know if you read that way back when, but in October, he was tweeting out that he
10,000 or
was
something.
the most like irresponsibly long on Ethereum that he's ever been in his life. And, I mean, that's
Yeah, because the
it'd be
ETH
interesting.
BTC chart broke out and then that broke back down. So
Yeah.
when that
Yeah.
happens, it's pretty bearish. We had a
Yeah.
macro breakout and it ended up being a fake out on the ETH BTC chart. So I haven't covered that in a long time, but
Yeah. Me
that's,
neither, man.
I
I'm
think
looking
it's
at it
down
right
to
now.
0.066 or something of a Bitcoin. It got up to 0.08.
Yeah. This one's coming more down over the next
Yeah,
quarter or
I think
so.
it's got to go back to at least 0.5. I think somewhere around that 0.55,
Yeah.
0.055, I should say. Sorry, so 5.5% of a Bitcoin
Something
value.
like that. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like altcoins are being. It seems to me that we're actually going to see a bit of altcoin Bitcoin pairing extinction, relatively speaking. Kind of
What
similar
did you say?
to like extinction.
Extinction.
Do you remember in 2017 around September, October, November, where Bitcoin was rallying and everything was
Yeah,
rallying with
and then the
Bitcoin, but the
alts.
altcoins were getting wrecked versus their Bitcoin pairing? I'm looking
Yeah,
at Ethereum Bitcoin right now, and I'm basically seeing that. I'm basically seeing that. It's what it looks like to me. I don't know. It's like
down.
another pair,
Yeah,
maybe Cardano,
I
but
I, I get so much hate for that. Like, oh, altcoins, you're a fool. They went up 80%, 30%. I'm like, I don't think you guys are knowing where you're measuring
no.
from, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the altcoin, Bitcoin value, they're all red. What are you looking at?
Yeah.
Like, I looked at the top 100 today on my video, and it's like they're all red against the Bitcoin
Yeah.
value. So if you just held Bitcoin, it'd still be up.
Yeah.
But
Just looking
anyway,
at
you can't.
Cardano is like a major failure right there too. Bitcoin
Oh,
dominance about
totally.
to fucking shoot through. I mean, this is
Yeah, it's sitting at that 50%. It was around that
yeah.
43.5%. What is that now?
Yeah. No, it was down around about 41.5%. Now it's about almost 44%.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the 50% level, like right at
yeah.
that
And
point. So to break that, it's just
I'm looking at it right now. I'll say this right here on fucking
it's
stream now. This
Bitcoin.
is very likely going above 50% in the next, like sometime later this year. I don't know if Bitcoin goes up or down alongside with that,
I'm
probably
looking
up,
at
but
52. I think it's that level.
yeah,
But just
somewhere around
just wait
there.
till tomorrow's video. We'll flip. Don't worry.
Yeah, and of course, and that's the thing. It's like until I get new information, I'm not gonna flip
It's
around
what
on
it
that
looks
one.
like now on the charts. It's sort of
Yeah,
been building and
yeah,
building. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Kind
I
of to
want
be
to I'll say a quick sorry to everyone that I've been moving around in my seat so much. My lower back is just twinging. My
twinging.
sacrum and my lower back twinging.
What are you what are you done there?
I don't know. It must have been last couple of days. I think it's just sore. I stretch out my quads. I feel
Yeah.
a lot better, but I think it's just tight in my hips from, I don't know.
Do you sit down a lot?
Yeah, I have a standing desk, so I stand as well. I
Ah,
kneel.
gotcha.
I do all sorts, but I get this little lower back thing a lot. It's annoying.
You know what's crazy to me, man? When I first got a standing desk, I was very quickly humbled that I couldn't stand up for more than like an hour. Oh, it's motorized. Nice. Mine is as well.
Yeah,
But
motorized. Yeah.
I realized, dude, I couldn't stand up for more than like an hour and a half without getting really tired, actually. And it just showed me like how pathetic I've become from sitting down all the fucking time. So just something as small as that, man, what I thought was very innocent became what I think is just a massive chink in the armor right there. I mean, like, what? I can't fucking stand up. Like, this is pathetic. This is pathetic, man.
I put it
So,
right down and then I kneel at the desk so I can stretch
yeah,
my hips as well.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
know?
also get the straight back as well, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also another thing that I noticed. Like my neck, I'm always like craned down like
Yeah.
this a lot of the time. It's just
All
bad,
the
man. Do you have
whinging
any?
that we do.
Yeah, do you have any? Do you have any like exercise that you use to kind of get away from that? It looks like you generally have pretty good posture.
I just use a roller. I've got a few rollers in my room, and then I'll just
Mm,
roll out my neck and just lie on
yeah,
that. I'll roll out my hips. So basically, put the roller underneath me and then just
gotcha.
lie back on it just to
You had a
open up.
massage ever, or
At the moment, once a week.
once?
Acupuncture. I like
Oh wow, once a
acupuncture
week.
more.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. I remember you said that last
yeah.
week
It's just
actually.
across the road.
I need to
Yeah.
give that one a go, man. I haven't messed
Oh,
around with that,
that's
but
so good.
hey, Anything
I just
anything
knock
that helps,
out.
I'm into. Yeah.
It just happens so quick, and I just knock out. I know there's
That is
all these
very
people say,
interesting.
"Oh, acupuncture doesn't work. It's just bullshit." I'm like, just give it a go. Yeah, and there are
Sure.
better therapists than others, of course. You know, the same with
Mhm.
doctors. But bam, I'm knocked out, and then I feel pretty good like that next 24 hours. It's like any pain, aches that I have in my shoulders or neck or back, it's usually gone.
That is very interesting. Yeah, man, I've noticed the same when I get a massage. Like if I get a 90-minute massage, I fall asleep by minute
Oh,
15 and I'm done. And like I wake up on the like she'll be like, okay. And she's like in Finnish. She goes, okay, we are done now. And I'm like, what the
you're
fuck?
like, "That's it? Here,
That
take some
just
more
flew
money."
by. Yeah. Exactly. Anyways, man, I
Just
think we're
like
getting
tonight's show, just flew by.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Absolutely flew by right there. Jesus Christ, man. These are going rather fast.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
I
I'll
guess
I'll
we don't
get
need to
that I'm smoking weed as well, but it's for me, it is like nearly 8 PM. For you, I don't know, what's the time at your end?
It's about 11:43 right now.
So you get the morning, I get the nighttime. I'm about to go to sleep,
Yeah.
but everyone always says he looks like he's stoned. I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I'm over it."
Oh, it's the bedroom eyes, sir. It's the bedroom eyes.
Mhm.
Take it in
Mhm.
stride. Alrighty, brother. Well, I guess we don't need to do any shilling at the end of the stream now. So
Apart from check out the links to Jason
check out the
Pizzino
links below.
YouTube and Twitter. And thank you very much, Eric Krown. We'll see you guys next week. And let us know who you would want to see on the channel.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
wanted to do that. Get someone big and famous.
Alrighty, my friends. Take care and see you next week.